Please let me know if you can hear me. It's Ron Cantor, and this is day two of an unprecedented event here well, not here, I'm actually still in France and Israel, trying to get home. We are going to try and get home as soon as we can. Ilana and I, we were here doing ministry in Marseille, which wonderful dear friends that we've made here. But just want to give an update of what we're following in day two. This has been the most horrific moment. Is other than maybe the the 73 war, which was 50 years ago to the day, or within one day, where there was a surprise attack on Israel just 6 years after the Six-Day War from Egypt and Syria, caught us off guard during Yom Kippur while we were fasting. I don't know what it was like then. I wasn't in Israel. I was a child. My wife lived here at the time. She remembers her brothers being taken from the synagogue and being, we're a civilian army, so we have a reserve army, and her brothers having to run and get in uniform and get on buses and go fight. It's like that today. I'm talking with so many of my friends whose sons and whose sons have been called up, and some of my friends who've been called up who are still young enough to be part of the army in their 40s. It is it's unreal, it's surreal, it's just like a bad dream. So I don't want to go through everything that I went through yesterday, but this is just horrific. The stories that we've heard today, that we've read today, Ilana, again, we're stuck here until we can get home, but just sitting on the bed, reading stories, crying, it's just shocking. And the big question I think that everybody is asking is, um, and I'm just going to go to my page real quick to make sure that folks can hear me. I'd hate to be halfway through this and find out that you couldn't hear me. So hopefully somebody is going to let me know that you can hear me. Okay, so assuming that you can, I've gotten some comments. The big question that everybody really wants to know is how in the world, how did this happen? Israel is, we pride ourselves on our intelligence. We have the Shin Bet, the Shabak, which is like the FBI. We have the Mossad, the famed Mossad intelligence agency. How in the world could Hamas do this? Before that, I want to give you just let you know what is happening and how bad it is. Um, Normally when these things happen, there's a rush on both sides to save face or to claim victory. This is horrible. There's no victory here. It's I don't have any words. So let me just as of the last time I checked, I mean, 600 Israelis are dead. Probably someone I know. Um, People close to where we live in the south. A lot of this took place in southern Israel. If you want to look at an Israel map, you can see where the Gaza Strip is. Well, right around Gaza are dozens of kibbutzim, small farming towns, and cities. Sderot, the largest city, and then our city Ashkelon, which is about maybe, I don't know, 8 miles north of. Uh, so most of the casualties are in our area, slightly south. More than 2,000 Israelis have been wounded. We've got a dear friend who works in the Barzilai hospital, and she's in the emergency room. And on her break, she called up Ilana and just it's like a war. It's like war. It's like, most of you might be too young to remember the show MASH, which I don't, MASH, I forget what it stands for, but it's your triage, your emergency hospital on the battlefield. But this is a real hospital, a highly advanced hospital. And there were bodies everywhere, men, women, children, soldiers, civilians. And she was just devastated. So, okay. So 2,000 wounded. Uh, this was earlier today when I wrote this. So I'm two more terrorists were neutralized on Highway 4 near Ashkelon. That's, again, just right around the corner from us, from where we live, Highway 4. I can be there in less than 3 minutes from my house. An Egyptian policeman decided it would be a good idea to fire on Israeli tourists in Alexandria, Egypt. He killed at least 2 Israelis and 1 of his own countrymen, an Egyptian. Some of the terrorists fled north to Ashdod. That's the city just north of us, where when I wrote this a few hours ago, there was a gun battle going on between these are so hundreds of terrorists infiltrated Israel. I think when I first reported, I was thinking 24, in a few trucks, but apparently, and again, I'll get into that, how they did it. I'm trying not to get ahead of myself. But they're still in Israel. There's some that are, as far as I know, they're still in the south, and who knows where they are or where they're hiding. It's just a nightmare. The IDF has claimed to kill over 400 terrorists so far. And this is the worst part. I mean, it's all bad. It's all bad. But this is the present nightmare, is that possibly over 100 Israelis have been taken hostage into Gaza. And I mean, you just got to think of those people, mothers, kids. I don't want to get ahead of myself. Just keep them in prayer. Keep them in prayer. Safety, salvation, freedom, and pray for the IDF as they seek some way to rescue them. I don't know how. It's going to take the hand of God, because these are people willing to die. It's going to take the hand of God. Thank God that we have his hand. 43 officers, not soldiers, officers, commanders in the IDF have been killed. This is unprecedented. It's horrible. So the question is, how in the world did they do it? Apparently Hamas used a low-tech technology of not using phones, not communicating via technology, but using couriers. So they planned this in a way that they could keep it quiet. They overwhelmed Ashkelon, our city, with about between 2,500 and 5,000 rockets. This would have been yesterday morning, in the early hours of the morning, and they did that. It was a diversion. It was a distraction. So at the same time, they used drones to snipe at the security cameras. So the people in the intelligence, I remember when my daughter was working in intelligence back in 2014, they depend on these cameras to know what's going on. And there's a fence that separates Gaza from Israel, and it has a lot of technology, including cameras nearby. And so they use drones to drop explosives on the cameras and destroy them. And of course, they knew it's Shabbat. It's not just Shabbat, it's Sukkot. It's the Feast of Tabernacles. So, we like to let as many soldiers go home and be with their family as is possible, even though it puts us in a vulnerable position. And so many of our bases in the south were, they didn't have enough people there to handle what was going to happen. And of course, this was planned this way. Then they used a bulldozer to tear down the border fence. And then they came over with trucks full of jihadists, and they poured into Israel. They didn't just come in trucks. They came in they paraglided from Gaza into Israel. They came in on, I'm even getting reports of bicycles and motorcycles. And I don't know how many hundreds of them came into Israel, but this should not ever happen. It is a massive, massive failure in our intelligence. And, I am sure there will be a time in the near future to speak about that as a society, as a government. Right now, we need to take care of our wounded. We need to rescue those who are alive, and we need to destroy Hamas. We have to destroy Hamas. And I hope that the world is listening. Share this video, because there's not just Israelis in Gaza right now. There are Germans. There are Americans, from what I've been told. I watched a Israeli on TV today. I believe his wife and mother-in-law were kidnapped. They're Germans. German citizen. Are you listening, Germany? These are the people you negotiate. These are the people that you try and placate. You can't placate a fanatic. You cannot placate somebody who's saying, well, I'm willing to die. I'm willing to die in the midst of killing others. You can't negotiate with people like that. It just doesn't work. Look where we are. Decades into it, over 20 years past 9/11, it doesn't work. So that's what's happening. And then the reports that we're getting are just horrible. It's very normal during Sukkot that there are these festivals in the north and the south. They're not religious festivals. They're time where teenagers and young adults go and they party all night long. They stay in fields often or near the Sea of Galilee. There's bands that play. They're often up all night. And just you can only imagine on Saturday morning yesterday, suddenly out of nowhere. Again, many of them up all night. Some of them were asleep, I imagine, in tents and sleeping bags. Out of nowhere, dozens and dozens of terrorists come with machine guns and start mowing them down. I watched one video of a father who was trying to explain what his son was telling him, where they fled, him and a few others. They fled to a car. They got in a car. They drove away. If I understood the Hebrew correctly, he was talking very fast. The car then flipped over, but somehow they got away. And by the end of it, he just broke down crying, saying, "But my son is safe." He hadn't touched him yet. He hadn't found him yet, but he heard from him that he's safe. It's just crazy. Reuters writes, bloodied bodies in the streets, gunmen raiding door to door. News of captives taken to Gaza left Israelis terrified and in shock after the Palestinian militant group Hamas launched a surprise attack that was unprecedented in its audacity and scale. Quote, "I went out and saw loads of bodies of terrorists, civilians, cars shot up, a sea of bodies inside Sderot," that is one of our southern cities, "along the road, other places, loads of bodies," said Shlomi, who is a resident of Sderot. Also in Sderot, they came in and they took over the police station, the Hamas operatives, jihadists, and they killed 20 police officers. There was a gun battle this morning. Israel retook the police station, which means nothing. I mean, big deal, except that they did neutralize all of those terrorists that had taken it over. There's a video being circulated of a woman, looks like she's in her 70s. She's injured. They're putting her on the back of a motorcycle, driving her into Gaza. Another woman in this video, she's huddling with her children as Hamas is taking them captive into Gaza. There's a video of a child who is in Gaza unsupervised, not even with the kidnappers, just walking around crying for his mother as little, and again, when I say this, little Arab children, I don't mean that all Arabs are like this. We have friends who are Arabs, we know Arab believers, and I have Arab Muslim, acquaintances that are not jihadists. But these are this little kid's being surrounded by little Arab kids in Gaza who were mocking him, calling him a filthy Jew. I just watched a video from a doctor at the hospital that we've actually been raising funds for, working on another project to help them have a bomb shelter for their premature baby unit. They got hit with a rocket. This is a few minutes from my house, and we just reached out to the doctor, the CEO rather, of the hospital, asking what we can do. We're sending some funds. Hopefully, we can raise some funds and send them significant funds. Anyways, it's just crazy. Doctors and nurses heroically working, and then you have the videos in Gaza of a terrorist celebrating with dead bodies. They have dead bodies of Israelis that they're dragging around as they eat candies, and I mean, that's sick. It's one thing to be in a war, a military war, military versus military, but these are the bodies are dead. I mean, that's demonic. Like, have you ever heard of such a thing? From any type of humane nation in the midst of war, where you start rejoicing as you mutilate dead bodies. It's demonic. And I had a friend. He is a Very smart guy, PhD archaeologist, and that we had a group chat from a trip that we were on with a bunch of pastors a few months ago, and one of them wrote on the group chat just asking about Elon and I, making sure that we were okay, and he responded with uh, praying for peace. Now, I wanted to respond really bad, and I had to use a lot of self-control not to, but let me explain something. If somebody breaks in to your house and rapes your sister, and then your neighbors say, "Well, we're just praying for peace between your sister and the rapist," that's not acceptable. That is you cannot equate terrorism, jihadist, with Israeli democracy. Listen, Israel isn't perfect. If you know me, I will be critical of my country. I'm not afraid to. I don't like to be, but we're not a perfect nation, but we're not bloodthirsty terrorists. And so when you see hundreds of terrorists break into Israel, shoot not soldiers, but women and children in cold blood, put the gun to people's head and pull the trigger, and then you say, well, we're just praying for peace. Don't tell me that. I don't want your prayers for peace. There's no such thing as peace with the devil. Do you understand that? And this is demonic, what they're doing. Again, I am not afraid to criticize my own nation. But do not equate a democratic society that has its issues that it's working through with jihadists, with people who will shoot women and children in cold blood. Please spare me your platitudes. Spare me your praying for peace. Why don't you pray for the hundreds, possibly 100 of Israeli hostages, that they will be free? Why don't you pray for the salvation of these bloodthirsty jihadists, that they would have a revelation of Yeshua and be born again? But don't act like this is just a conflict between two equal sides. That is sick. On 9/11, imagine if somebody, and I remember 9/11 very well, I was stuck in Argentina, couldn't get back to America. If somebody had come to me during 9/11 and said, you know what, we're just praying for peace, America, Al-Qaeda, we're just praying for peace. If you're American, how would you feel? Well, that's how I felt when he said we're praying for peace. Not appropriate. Okay. And by the way, let me just say something. Off topic, or I'm getting all your emails. I'm reading all your messages. One of the things I love to do is respond. It's probably a fault of mine, but I respond to almost everyone that emails me. Normally, I can't right now. I cannot, but I want you to know that I read every email, every single one, and it means a lot to see so many people praying for Israel, praying for those who've been captured, weeping with us, crying with us, groaning with us, praying with us. It means everything. So if I don't respond, it's just I'm overwhelmed, but it means so much. So how can you pray? Let's bring this to a close. The most important thing right now is for the hostages. Pray for a miracle. Pray that they'll be free. Pray that somehow God's hand moves, and they're just able to walk. I actually had a dream. I don't know if it was prophetic or if this is just on my mind, but I took a nap earlier and I just saw hostages walking right out of Gaza. If I had to guess, I think it was just my own mind, because I've been in this all day. But wouldn't it be great if the Lord would just come in and blind them, and people would be able to walk out free? So pray that. God, we pray that. We pray for the hostages, that they would be freed, and we pray that there would be peace right now, that you would cover them, that you would bless them, that you would minister to them, that you would give them revelation of salvation, of victory, of how they can have eternal life. Oh God, touch them, visit them right now in the name of Yeshua. You can also pray for the families of the hostages. I've seen some of them on TV, and they're just distraught. That's just too light of a word. You can't even imagine what they're feeling right now. Pray for our government leaders and our military commanders, that they would be led by the Spirit of God. We need God to show up in our government. And again, now is not the time to point fingers. Now is not the time to talk about the failures. It's obvious to anyone that We were asleep at the wheel, but we'll deal with that later. Right now, pray for Prime Minister Netanyahu. Pray for I just saw come across my feed that Isaac Herzog, our president, is calling for a unity government, bringing in Yair Lapid and Benny Gantz. That's probably the right thing. Um, we need unity right now. We've had 7, 8, 9 months of the worst disunity since I've been in Israel. We need unity. Pray for supernatural protection for the rest of the country. Pray not just for the Iron Dome physically, but that Yeshua, that God would be an Iron Dome. Please pray for Barzillai Hospital in Ashkelon. They are on the front lines of taking care of the wounded, and I have told the CEO there that our the 50,000 followers on my page and the almost 2 million followers on the God TV page, and I know we have people on the Tikkun page that you guys are praying for the staff, for the doctors at Barzillai Hospital. So just take time right now, God. We just pray for them. Give them grace. Give them grace. The doctors, the nurses, everyone there. Give them grace. Help them not be overwhelmed. Heal them of their own PTSD and help them to focus on the need at the moment, God. Protect Barzillai from every attack, from every bomb, from every rocket in the name of Yeshua. Pray that if there, I don't know if there are any remaining terrorists in Israel. I don't know that anyone knows right now, but pray that they'd be captured, that they'd be stopped. And really just, anything else you can think of. Get with your friends, have a prayer meeting of 2 or 3 or 10 or 15. I just got an email from our friends at IHOP that they're organizing prayer for Israel. It means everything to those in the land. And again, we are in I don't want to say the city we're in. I may have already said it, but we're in France, and we came here because my sweet wife, we were going to celebrate our 35th anniversary in when we were in the States over the summer, but she hurt her foot, and then some ministry doors opened up in Switzerland and here in France, and so we thought we'd come here and then we do, spend some time together. But obviously things have changed, so we just want to get home. Pray for my daughter Danielle. She leads an organization that feeds people. It was birthed out of COVID. And they have a group of at least during COVID, it was over 1,000 volunteers, and they have sprung into action, and they are providing food for people in need right now in Israel. So pray for them that they would be safe and that they would be able to do their job and help people and feed people, that they have the resources. There's nothing good about this, but one of the things I have noticed in Israel is that when these things happen, I remember in 2014 when we went in the south, when rockets were falling on Israel, and we just saw how the nation came together, left, right, religious, secular. I remember we got to this farm. We were going to visit our daughter on her base, to just bring her some supplies, food and coffee and chocolate, and love on her. And as we're coming down there, we see this farm, and there's just dozens of cars and military vehicles, and we stop and we go in, and somebody had turned their farm into a R&R, a rest and relaxation place, and there were Israelis there giving free haircuts, making hamburgers, chicken burgers, and salads and ice cream, and just everything you can imagine, massages for the soldiers. And Israelis come together, and we've had a hard year. Again, I don't want to. What do they say? There's no moral victories, in this type of thing. There is no moral victory here. We're defeated. We're broken. But in the midst of that, Israelis will come together. And thank you, guys. Bless you. And I'm going to go now. And please share this video and pray for Israel. Pray for victory. Pray for the salvation of Israel. All right? Love you guys. Thank you so much. And I am going to sign off. Shalom. Shalom to everyone in the name of Yeshua. Bye-bye.